Welcome to Unit 2, Lecture Video 1. In this lecture, we're going to talk about the carbon cycle. And the carbon cycle is going to bridge the gap between the biotic interactions and the abiotic interactions, because this is actually where we're going to see a lot of them play out in the chemical realm. So the carbon cycle is a biogeochemical cycle. Okay, so we've got bio for life, geo for earth, and chemical for compound. And it's really important. So carbon is approximately 18% of your total body. And it is the second, well, maybe most important is the wrong phrase, but it is the second most numerous compound or numerous element in your body, and it is in all organic macromolecules. It is in everything. We are known as carbon-based life for a reason. So we are all part of this carbon cycle just by existing in a couple of different ways. And part of this, the carbon can exist organically, so as an organic compound, okay, C6H12O6, which you're going to learn and be a big fan of this year, or inorganically as something like carbon dioxide. We're all part of the carbon cycle, and it happens in land, in water. Generally, it is an exchange between air, water, some combination of the two, plants, animals. Okay, so you can see here a basic carbon cycle. So we've got air, so we would have, or in the water, this happens in both places. So we've got CO2, okay, which then is absorbed by the plants through photosynthesis. Photosynthesis, or plants also release CO2 in some ways as basically like they exhale just like we do. They also turn it into carbohydrates. We eat those carbohydrates. So this is all part of the carbon cycle. So carbon cycle, here's a little diagram. It's basically just back and forth carbon moving in different places. So we've got carbon in the atmosphere or the water. Plants use it, animals eat it, plants die, bodies decompose, all of this different stuff. Fossil fuels are part of the carbon cycle, so adding carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. Okay, and then also in some cases like volcanic eruptions, carbon is slowly released or quickly. All right, so this is different these are mostly geologic processes, like I said, like volcanoes, fossil fuels. So we've got different things that happen in the carbon cycle, and there isn't really a defined path of carbon. It can go in a couple of different ways. It's kind of like a choose your own adventure. All right, carbon in the atmosphere, plants use that to make food, animals eat plants to take in the carbon. They can also release it back into the atmosphere. Okay, animals, plants and animals die. So then we go into decompose, we become part of fossil fuels. So there's a lot of stuff. Okay. We have a couple of things here called carbon sinks. And we're going to talk about these more in class. But carbon sinks is basically where carbon gets stuck. Okay, and carbon can get stuck there for many, 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 many years. All right, so carbon can be what's called sequestered. So it gets stuck there. Okay. So here's another picture of the carbon dioxide, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that, or the carbon cycle. We're going to talk a lot more about this, but it's just another different representation of it, and you can kind of see the different, and these actually have numbers here. Okay, so carbon in the atmosphere goes back and forth between the ocean, and if we're not careful, it creates this thing called bicarbonate right here. Okay, and it actually increases ocean acidification and increases, makes problems for animals. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later this year. We've got different things. Okay, so we have all sorts of different pieces to this carbon cycle puzzle. We are a piece to it. All right, if you look at this, here's an animal, so that would be us. So we can respire, which means we exhale. Okay, we exhale carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. Okay, and then we also eat things, and when we die, okay, and our waste products. All right. So the carbon cycle and global climate change. So there's a really huge There's a really huge body of evidence about carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So the atmosphere is made of greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases didn't mean to draw that. Greenhouse gases are not necessarily a problem in and of themselves because they do actually help keep the planet at a habitable temperature. Okay, but what happens is when we add too many greenhouse gases, we get too warm. So it's kind of like adding blankets. Okay, if you think about adding a blanket, if you were to put a blanket on in the middle of summer and then put another blanket on, another blanket on, another blanket on, you're going to get warmer and warmer and warmer. So the greenhouse gases are kind of like a blanket. We need some of them, okay? We need them to keep the earth at a habitable temperature, to make it work, to make everything okay. But as we start adding more and more blankets, okay, we're going to end up getting too warm. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about this year with this. All right. So, wrap up. See, that was short. That was not even 5 minutes. Okay, wrap up. Go outside and take or draw a picture of something, biotic or abiotic, involved in the carbon cycle. Okay, and I want you guys this time actually post your pictures on the discussion board. I know last time I told you not to. This time I want you to post them. And then what are 3 different carbon compounds that are involved in the carbon cycle? So I want you to find something part of the abiotic or biotic and then 3 different carbon compounds. All right, I'll see you in class.